Welcome to the weekend. I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Well, it's only a couple weeks away, the primary. There's only 4 people here in Colorado set up to be senator, only 2 of them Democrats, and one of them is this lovely lady right here, Jane Norton, former lieutenant governor of Colorado. Thanks for joining me.
I'm pleased to be here, but I'm a Republican, John.
I know.
Oh.
Did I say something different?
I thought you said that, right.
And there's only 2 that could be, Republicans.
Yeah,
I might have screwed.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right. My apologies. My apologies. We really can't get into your race without talking about what's going on today with the governor's race. Did you see any of this coming with Scott McInnis? And I know you've been friends with Scott for a long time and you've worked with him a long time. What's your take? What's your advice?
No, I did not see it coming. Scott and Lori have been friends of ours for a number of years, and I've greatly admired so many of the good things that he's done for the state, but it appears as though he made a serious mistake, as frankly Dan Mays has done, and it's going to be up to the people of Colorado whether they are in a forgiving mood or not.
If you were having a couple beers with Scott McInnis and he said, Jane, what should I do? How would you advise him?
Yeah, I think that's got to be a decision between him and Lori to decide what's best for them and the state.
Yeah, there's a little scuttlebutt going around that says, the loser of the primary from the Republican side for U.S. Senate, maybe that person could run for governor. What do you think?
Well, then you'll have to ask him that question. No, I mean, my interest is in the United States Senate. I see the federal government encroaching in so many areas, and that's why I got in this race, not just because I want a political job, because I want to change the direction our country is headed. We have a federal government that is out of control. You see the overtaxing, overspending, overregulating, and it's stifling job creation, and that's why I want to go to the United States Senate.
Well, that and also you get a great parking space out there. Talk to me a little bit about your background. Now, you'll be running against Ken Buchan, a good guy.
Yes.
I want to find out the differences here. You've been involved in local politics for a long time. You've been the lieutenant governor of Colorado, which was going to get us.
That was a slip.
That was a slip. That was a 40 slip. So let's get into that one, which I wanted to bring up, Ref C&D.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you had some questions about Ref C&D. Your boss, the governor, Bill Owens, was running it. Tell me, what was your take? Because there are a lot of people out there saying that you worked for Ref C&D, and I want to know if you did or not.
Well, I didn't work for Ref C&D. Certainly, I supported it because I was the lieutenant governor to Bill Owens. It was a very important initiative to him. John, we were the first team that ran together. The law was changed in 2000, where we ran together, so it was important to him. But Ref C was Tabor in action in my mind. It allowed the people of this state to have a say whether they wanted their time out for 5 years, whether they wanted that surplus to go to the government or back to them. So,
and the point you made is an important one. When Governor Owens was first elected, he could not choose his lieutenant governor, which was a pretty odd thing in Colorado. In fact, Colorado history has had a few lieutenant governors that have been at odds with the governor,
right.
Because they were basically chosen at the assembly and through the primary completely separately. Yours was the first one where a governor or gubernatorial candidate said, "This is my running mate." So, in other words, are you saying that you were chosen? You had to do what the guy said?
Well, I didn't have to. But this was a big policy issue for him, and I supported him in that.
And if it were held today, would you feel the same way?
No, absolutely not. I believe in Tabor. I believe that we need to have restrictions on how quickly the public sector can grow in proportion to the private sector. And I've advocated for a Tabor at the federal government level. We need those kinds of restraints at the federal level.
Now, when I talked to you about this privately, and I said, we talked about politics, and I said, Jane, if you're going to win this race, you need to sign a no tax pledge. And you turned around and said, wait a second, I think I did that back in October. And you turned to somebody, didn't I? And yes, you did. Why did you sign a no tax pledge? ATR, Americans for Tax Reform, has a pretty simple pledge. It says, I pledge not to do anything as a senator to raise taxes period. Why did you sign that?
Oh, spending in this country is out of control, and I believe taxing is as well. When you look at historically record unemployment, the fact of the matter is that we have to restrain spending and we have to restrain taxing. It's stifling job creation, and so I was pleased to be the first one in this race to sign a no new tax pledge.
Why Senate? You've got a lot of local ties. You've got a lot of ties here in Colorado. You know the inside of Colorado government as lieutenant governor. Why go to D.C.? Why not become governor if that seat was open? Why not look at some of the other seats? Why Senate?
Well, first of all, the issues that I think are most important, that are pivotal for us as a country right now, are in the Senate. Look at health care reform, look at cap and trade, look at the stimulus, look at card check. These are incredibly important questions, and I believe we have an administration that, again, is out of control. Government has gotten too big, too powerful, too intrusive, and I want to be where the action is.
All right, let's go down on that list. Healthcare. What is it you're going to do on healthcare? I'm hoping for a repeal and replace. I'm assuming, and every Republican says this, you would not have supported Obama, would you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a huge encroachment on federalism, as our good friend and my supporter, Attorney General Jon Caldara, says. For us to be mandated to have to purchase a private product, I do not believe is constitutional. But it doesn't get at the mission of bringing the cost of health care down. John, that was the whole purpose of Obamacare, was to bring the cost down. Everyone knows that that's a joke. A $2.5 trillion bill over 10 years doesn't bring the cost of health care down. We need to make health insurance more affordable so more people will be covered. Right now, we have, under Obamacare, 16 million new people on Medicaid, which is a cost share with the state government, a huge unfunded mandate. We don't have any tort reform. If you want to bring the cost of health care down, you have to look at the drivers of health care. One of the big drivers is defensive medicine and junk lawsuits. There's nothing in that 2,700-page bill about that. Nothing about portability, nothing about tax equity, being able to purchase across state lines. So we've not solved the problem. So my number one priority, if I have the privilege of serving the citizens of Colorado, is to repeal Obamacare and replace it with substantive health care reform that will actually bring the cost of health care down.
This is what's known as repeal and replace.
Yes.
But that's still at least 2.5 years away.
That's right.
It's going to be a while. This state race is probably one of the most important races in the country, and that this is a vulnerable seat. Your Democratic opponent, should you survive to the primary, has never run an election ever. I think he will win over Romanoff in that primary. This is seen as a pickup seat. Tell me a little bit about Washington and how Washington has treated you. I know that when you announced, there was a feeling, and some people in the grassroots said, wait a second, this woman is being chosen by D.C. I wanted to get into this. The RNC was claimed to say, I bless Jane Norton, she's our lady for this. And it was because they gave you they pulled out a domain name. So were you the choice of the D.C. establishment, or were you locally grown? That story always confused me. Help clear it up.
You said the RNC, and actually the dust-up was with regards to the Republican National Senatorial Committee.